Hey everyone, welcome back to the Maximum Human Potential YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be running through a pretty typical leg or squat session that I normally do when I'm in more of an off-season phase. So there's no strongman events today. This would be when I haven't got a comp for a while and I'm just really trying to bring my squat up. So we'll kick it off as always with some activations. So this time I'm going to do a stir the pot first. So elbows in a fit ball, we're going to rotate, fall this way, fall that way, just to switch on the core in a few different planes and directions to stabilize me when I'm squatting. Then I'm going to go into a kettlebell lunge, but we're going to hold it with one hand, do 10 steps, swap over the other 10, do 2 sets of that. And then lastly, I'll do a dowel press. So I'll be face down on an incline bench and pressing up just to kind of get the shoulders mobilized in a fashion that's really specific rather to how I'm going to be holding the tension in a squat. So once the activations are done, we'll move on to some calf work. So you might have seen my last deadlift video where I ran through my sort of calf protocol. So at this point in time, just one big drop set followed by a loaded stretch. So I've just got 4 plates on there today. We're going to do 20 reps at each plate. So 20 at 80, 60, 40, 20. So 80 reps all up. And then I'll leave the last plate on and we'll do a loaded stretch for about 30 seconds just to trigger a bit more growth in there. So then I'm on to squats. Now, I'm just going to talk a bit about my squat programming over the last few months, how I'm peaking up towards 300 kilos next week. So I started this phase with a personal best. I estimated about 280 kilos. My best was 260 for 1 set of 3. So I factored 280 was roughly my max. So taking about 80% of that, I had 220 kilos, which was a good base number to build a volume block out of. So week 1 was 220 kilos for 6 sets of 3. And then it went 220 6x4, 220 6x5, 220 6x6. Following that I had a deload week, and then I moved on to 230 for 3 sets of 5, 240 last week for 4 sets of 4, this week 260 for 3x3. So we're starting with ramping up to a huge amount of volume, and then we're tapering down, getting used to heavier loads to peak out to hit 300 next week. Now, this program was a bit different for me because I had 2 comps along the way, actually 3 comps in the space of about 2 weeks. So I had to basically take 2 weeks off squatting and sort of deload, and I had to start the program again at about halfway through. So the whole thing is going to end up actually being about 12 weeks, but you don't have to worry about that. That was just the situation I was in and having to balance it with competing. But I'll outline the basic routine here and you don't have to worry about that little modification that I do. So this session, we're just going to warm up, really saving energy. So essentially 1 rep at each plate, getting up to about 240, and then we'll jump to 260 and do a 3x3, which should mean I'm ready to hit 300 kilos next week. Now, following that, we're going to wrap things up with more stretching. So this one, I'm going to admit I've been a little bit slack on, and it's not going to be a very intense stretch for most people, but for me, I've got quite tight quads, so I'm really feeling it, and it's what I really need to work on to help with some mobility, getting a bit deeper in my squats, and also to help keep my knees healthy. So that's like a bit of a, I'll have my foot up against the wall, stretching the quad and hip flexor at the same time for 75 seconds each side to wrap things up. So that's my leg day, nice and simple. We're activating first, peaks and calves, otherwise you're just going to forget them or half-ass at the end, doing squats, and then we're finishing off with a bit of stretching and we're done. So, moral of the story, keep it simple, focus on the basics and overload them over time. That's how you get strong.